So hopefully those of you that had questions that need to be answered are logging on here. We've had some technical difficulties once again with this wonderful computer that I have here. So this is our Facebook Live Q&A session for November. It's session number 31. Appreciate everybody posting questions and logging on here today. I do want to thank our sponsor, Spot On Fence. If you're looking for some sort of an invisible fence system, reach out to Spot On, and they can definitely help you get one of their collars and get you set up. Also want to thank the Sheep and Goat Predator Management Board for providing funding for the program. We've got several questions posted and some fairly long answers from me today. But if we have any time at the end, I'll definitely try to get some comments if anybody posts them in the chat. So our first producer is Wendy Pinnickney. Hopefully I pronounced that name right, Wendy. She says she has a few acres and 2 Anatolian Maremma cross guard dogs that are guarding sheep, ducks, and geese. The coyotes have been very loud in the woods around her property, and she says that the dogs do patrol and they bark during the night. However, if the coyotes are particularly loud and they seem close when she goes outside, the dogs don't seem concerned. And she wants to know why they're barking and patrolling when there's no noise, but when the coyotes are loud and close, why aren't the dogs doing that? She said that she had had some sheep losses inside her perimeter before the dogs, but since she got the dogs late last winter, she hasn't had any more issues. So, first, Wendy, basically the dogs work 3 ways. They set up a territory, and they exclude predators from that. They disrupt the pattern of the predators, and then if those 2 things don't work, it's the direct confrontation. So most likely, when your dogs are up and out patrolling, they're doing their scent marking. However, it is a little concerning that they're not barking, when the coyotes are close. One thing that I can tell you, an example that I can give you, is a year or 2 ago, I had a producer that sent me some video of coyotes in the daytime passing within, probably 30 yards of her guard dogs and the sheep. The dogs didn't seem concerned at all until one of the coyotes, because there was 2 or 3 of them in the video that were passing by the area. When one of the coyotes stopped for just a second and kind of turned its body halfway towards the sheep and where the dogs were. The 2 dogs sat up at that point. The coyote turned away, and then the dogs just laid back down. So what I think was happening, in that situation and in yours, is that the dogs don't consider those coyotes that are close to be a threat to your livestock, which is why they're not very concerned. So that was a situation on the other ranch, and I think it's probably a very similar situation on yours. Just because the coyotes are loud and they seem close doesn't mean, that they're looking to attack your livestock. The dogs know a lot more about predators than we do, and so if you're not having any predation losses, then I wouldn't be too concerned. The dogs are obviously doing their job. If you were having sheep losses, before you got the dogs and now you're not, they are working for you. And it's not that there's something wrong with the dogs. They're just not considering those coyotes that are howling to, be a threat to your animals. So, if you have any other questions, feel free to, post those in the comments today, and I'll get to those, Wendy, or, feel free just to message me through Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, or just, phone call or whatever. Our next question comes from Carmen Tondo, and she says she's got 2 Anatolian Great Pyrenees sisters. They're 4 years old. They're both fixed. She got them in March. They've been taking care of her Nigerian goats. She says they've been great with the baby goats we had in mid-August, but now one of them has been licking and nipping at the babies. 3 of the kid goats are about 20 pounds now, and they've had a lot of wet slobbers on them the last couple of days. She said the nanny doesn't seem very concerned about this. The dog that's doing this is also the most playful and kind of crazy of both of the dogs. and she's just wondering, should she be concerned? And so, you know, the the licking is fine, and probably the wet slobbers are okay because that's just the dog grooming those animals, which is a sign that the dog is bonded to them. The issue becomes the nipping, and the dog shouldn't be doing any type of nipping, especially at 4 years old. They should be out of any type of adolescent, issues that come up, which are, things like this, for instance. So, what it sounds like, Carmen, is that these dogs weren't taught to be submissive to the livestock at all. And I asked you kind of a follow-up question for folks to kind of clarify some stuff on whether they were raised with livestock, and so either the former owner knew that the dogs had some of these issues with kid goats, and that's why they might have sold them to you. So there was some reason that they sold them, because really nobody sells older guard dogs, unless they're just getting out of the business or something. They're good ones are too hard to find. Okay, so I guess what I would recommend is you need to find a way to teach those dogs to be a little bit more submissive to those kids, because they definitely shouldn't be chewing on them or trying to nip at them or anything like that. So since this dog is already 4, this behavior needs to stop immediately. That you can't continue with this, because it's going to lead to other things like ears being chewed or tails or legs being chewed on, that type of thing. And this dog is too old to be doing that kind of behavior. So normally I progress through some other things because there's some other types of behavior usually going on in adolescent dogs. But since the dog is 4, I would go right to recommending an e-collar. The one that we use is a fairly inexpensive one. It's called an Inverox. I think they're about $70 on Amazon. And like I said, I use them personally on my own dogs when I need to, especially my border collie. And we use them at the center when we have a need to do that as well. So what I would kind of do, Carmen, is I would purposely set that dog up. I would place it in a pen, with several of those kid goats that you have, and then have the collar on it. And hopefully y'all can still hear me here. My speaker turned off. I'm still having technical difficulties here. So Sarah or Vincent, if y'all are logged on, if you can just give me a comment that you can still hear me, I'd appreciate it. Okay, great. Thank you, Manuel. Anyway, kind of going back to the e-collar here. Set the dog up, walk away, go someplace where the dog doesn't know that you can still see them, where they can't hear you or anything like that. Make sure your cell phone's turned off. And every time that dog walks up to one of those kid goats, I would just have that e-collar set on high, and I would shock the dog. They need to know that that behavior is not okay. Now, if you're out there with the dog and you see them doing that, that's fine to do. Correct them as well, just verbally. Go over and scold the dog to make sure that they're not, nipping, or, like I said, chewing and biting are probably going to happen at some point, Carmen. So, I would do that e-collar training probably for about a week. It's probably not going to take that long. Guard dogs generally learn things fairly quickly, especially things that, hurt them. And so, it's probably only going to be 2 or 3 times that you're going to have to use the e-collar on them to stop the behavior. But I would try it for at least a week and kind of see how it goes. Try to keep your training period short. I wouldn't do it for more than probably about 15 minutes. And, short training and more frequent repetition is better than, longer periods of time and less frequency. So that should hopefully help you out. And, if you're having any other issues, Carmen, feel free to reach out and let me know. Okay. So our next question is from Casey Goen. She says she's not a livestock guardian dog owner yet, but she's doing some planning and research, which is a really good thing, Casey, because most people get the dogs and then do all the research and planning. So I applaud you for doing that, Casey. She says, one specific area of management that she's trying to learn a lot about is inter-pack fighting between the guard dogs. She wants to understand management choices that influence this versus what is inevitable in nature to happen between the dogs. And she wants to know if I can direct her towards resources that address this aspect of the equation. For example, how much do breed, gender, alteration of the dogs, temperament affect the risk of these inter-pack disputes? And are there any recommendations how to socialize guard dogs as new working partners? So, again, probably my first recommendation to you, Casey, I would go and do a Google Scholar search for, livestock guardian dog behavior. I think, you're probably going to pull up a whole lot of information because there's a lot of information that's out there on the internet, and it's probably going to be more than you want. You might also do a search of just general dog behavior for those specific patterns that you're concerned about. But definitely go through a Google Scholar search, not just a straight Google search. Okay, you need these to be scientific journals that you're going to be selecting this information from, so that the information is reliable, that it's come from some sort of a research-based approach. Okay, as far as other materials, Dr. Bonnie Beaver, she is a canine behaviorist, actually from Texas A&M. And she has a great book on canine behavior that I would recommend, and it's just called, Canine Behavior. It has each chapter has a whole bunch of research articles that she pulled data to write the book from, and it's very easy to read and, kind of just, very user-friendly type of a thing. So check out Dr. Beaver's Canine Behavior book. I'd also recommend another book called The Domestic Dog. It's by Serpels, and that's Serpell. And I think let me see, I've got the book right here. It's from Cambridge Publishers, and it's already on its second edition, and it's James Serpell. That's another really good book on like the domestic dog and behaviors and things like that of dogs that you can check out. A favorite of mine that I refer to every once in a while, and I recommend it to producers all the time, is Livestock Protection Dogs, Selection, Care, and Training. I believe it's in its second or third edition also. That one you can find on Amazon. It's an excellent book for just starting out with livestock guardian dogs, and even if you forget some basic things from time to time, I've got a ton of post-it notes stuck in my version and sections highlighted and everything else in it. It's a very good book. I would highly recommend to anybody with guard dogs. Also, just look for guard dog books online. Cat Urbikit's got a couple books. Brenda Negri has some. Most of them that are on Amazon, that are out there for guard dogs are fairly credible resources, and would be good books to get if you're just starting out. The other thing, I would recommend to you is we have a considerable amount of literature on our website at the AgriLife Center in San Angelo. If you go to the Livestock Guardian Dog page, there's a link there that takes you to a whole nother page with all the research articles that we have or we've found on livestock guardian dogs. And anytime I find a new one, I try to make sure and get it posted to the website. And it's kind of broken down into different sections on that subpage. So, I would go through there and look at some of those livestock guardian dog behavior articles that are on that site also for you. I do want to recommend, you didn't mention, Casey, how big your property is or how many guard dogs you were thinking about getting. But, unless you have a large piece of property, and when I say large, I'm talking Texas kind of size large. So something of, several hundred to 1,000 acres. You probably only need one guard dog. One guard dog is easily going to cover, 50 head and, 50 acres to 100 acres with no problem at all. don't believe what you hear that you have to have 2 dogs, or a lot of times that's just a ploy to sell puppies, because breeders don't want to get stuck with a puppy, and if they can sell you 2, all the better for them. The other thing too is, when you have multiple pups or guard dogs at the same age, they're all going to go through adolescence at the same age, and that creates problems of its own. And so I would encourage you to start with a single dog and then add dogs from there if you're having predation issues. That kind of going back to that too is, unless you have an extremely high load of predators, like, you have packs of coyotes traveling your area, or, you're in a wolf area, or you've got a lot of lions or bears, again, a single dog would work just fine for you. The other thing too is everybody makes a ton of mistakes with their first dog. So instead of having 2 dogs that you make mistakes with, that you'll have to live with for a while, you'll only have 1, and you can correct those mistakes in the second dog that you get. So, how long to wait? I would try to wait on your first dog, until it's probably at least a year old, if not a little bit older than that, and then get a second dog, to try to help it out if you feel like you definitely need 2 dogs. The other thing, that I would recommend, since you're first starting out, Casey, is look at breeds, tendencies. Most of your guard dogs, your breeds, have a tendency of some sort. Pyrenees tend to be perimeter dogs. Anatolian Shepherds tend to be perimeter dogs. Your Maremas and your Crocochans, Commodores, those all tend to be close-in dogs. And, what we've seen, and I know a friend of mine in the Akbosh Association might contradict this, but at least what I've seen in our tracker data is our Akbosh dogs tend to be floaters. So sometimes they're, close with the herd, other times they're out on the perimeter. So as you go to add dogs, if you need more than 1, look at those tendencies and, get a straight bred dog to kind of increase the chance of it having that tendency, so that they can work as a team and cover your entire property. It just gives you and the dogs a better chance of success against the predators. Okay. Also, I think you asked a question, yes, about the gender. And boy, we're going over a lot of stuff here, but all the research articles that I've seen, which has been quite a few that I've gone through and read, especially now that I'm working on my master's, it's even more. There is no, I have not found a research article that shows a difference between male and female guarding ability, nor between fixed or intact. So I wouldn't be concerned about, mixing genders. Okay, hopefully we got sound still here. I wouldn't be concerned about mixing genders of the dogs, or, getting them fixed or leaving them intact. I would actually encourage you to fix all your dogs and leave breeding up to the guard dog breeders. These dogs do tend to have a very strong natural breeding instinct compared to other dogs that you may be familiar with. And so I would get them fixed, probably by about a year, so that you don't have any issues with roaming starting to occur. What else have I got in my notes here for you, Cassie? On the recommendation, that was kind of your last thing. I do highly recommend that you socialize your dogs. Can you over-socialize them? I'm not 100% sure. I think you can to a point. It really kind of depends on the size of your operation. Again, if you have a smaller place, the dogs need to just stay in the pasture. They don't need to be on the back porch. They don't need to be in the house for sure. No matter what the weather is outside, unless it's just, 30 below and there's a, high wind chill factor and the dogs are wet. That'd be about the only time I would be worried about a guard dog, getting chilled. So, make sure that, when you get your pup, that you're socializing them well, you're leash training them, tether training them, giving them a truck ride once a week. All those things really help to have a well-socialized, well-rounded dog, as an adult livestock guardian dog, because you should be able to go out into your pasture and easily catch your livestock guardian dog. You shouldn't have to round up all your animals and hope that they don't find a hole in the fence someplace, and the dog gets out. That kind of thing is just ridiculous, in my opinion, to have to deal with. So, definitely socialize your dog, like I said. And if you've got some more questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. I can definitely, explain more what we do with how we socialize our guard dog puppies. The other question that you had, is maybe adding dogs to a pack. Yes, there kind of is a process to that I recommend. Basically, I could go into this and it would take a lot longer because I've covered it a bunch of times in these Q&As. So you can look on some of our Q&A sessions on YouTube to find this answer a little bit more, but just take everything slow. Figure it's going to take 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks to acclimate the new dog to the current dogs in your pack. And, do everything across, like a fence line at first, and then having, your current dogs tethered and bringing the new dog into them on a leash, and just see how things go. And if, there's any aggression that starts, correct the dog that does that. And slowly over time, have everybody off leashes and off tethers in a pen together. Bring in food to the mix, bring in livestock to the mix of that. And, if you have any issues, then take a step back a week to the step previously, and then spend more time at that. So those are kind of my recommendations to you on socialization and a bunch of the other questions that you had. So hopefully I answered most of your questions there that you had, Cassie. If you need anything else, again, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you some more if you got more questions. We had a late question come in today, probably within about 10 minutes of the Q&A. So the last one that I have today is for Doug Hitch. He says he's got a 6 to 7 month old livestock guardian dog pup. For the last few weeks, the puppy's been harassing the sheep that she's with. She's already a big dog, he says, and she's kind of intimidating to the sheep. She's with his yearling ewes now, and they are sometimes skittish around the dog when she gets a little excited. But she has been with the animals since she was 6 to 8 weeks old. She wants to play with them a lot, and then she starts to run. Then the sheep, kind of get scared and run off. The other day she had a sheep cornered, and she was kind of holding it in the corner and not letting it return to the rest of the herd. So he put a dangle stick on her, and he says that slowed her down from chasing the yearling ewes. But now she leaves the yearling ewes, and she goes across the pasture in the afternoon and gets in with some ewe lambs that he has, and he saw her chasing them the other day. So yesterday a panel got knocked down, a bunch of the ewe lambs got out with some other sheep. He says he didn't see what happened, but he's pretty sure that the lambs were chased into the panel and it just kind of fell over. He says he's been turning her out with the ewes in the morning, and if she gets in trouble, he puts her back on a chain in the pen where she and the ewes are penned up at night. And so he wants to know how he can stop the harassing behavior and kind of get her to calm down around the sheep. So first, Doug, as kind of I mentioned, I guess even today's video earlier, she's definitely right at the beginning of, the teenage months. They generally start 7 or 8 months of age, and they're going to go to 18 to, 20 months of age. Okay. And during that time, excuse me, all kinds of different bad behaviors could come up. Sometimes it's just one behavior and you get that fixed, and then that guard dog is great the rest of the time. Other times it'll be something like this chasing, and then that's going to lead to chewing, and then that leads to biting and, excess barking and just all kinds of bad stuff that teenage guard dogs do. So if you're logged on here, Doug, I don't know, you didn't say quite how big your property is, but it sort of sounds like she's getting bored, that she doesn't have enough to do. And so, by chaining her up, which it's good to discipline her, that's kind of doing the opposite of what you need her to be doing. She needs to expel as much energy as possible. You need to wear this dog out so that she doesn't have energy to go and chase the sheep. Okay? Because most likely what's going to happen is at some point, the chewing and the biting that I mentioned is going to start happening, and you're going to start missing ears or tails off of your sheep. You'll see bites on the legs and the back. Then it's going to lead to bites on the kind of front legs up by the shoulder area, and eventually you're going to have some dead lambs come up, and maybe even a dead ewe. So like I said, she needs to expel as much energy as possible. If you have a kennel, I would recommend, putting her in a large kennel or in a pen away from the rest of the animals, instead of putting her on a chain, because again, that's just building up energy, and that's not a good thing for her. Okay. I do want to say the dangle stick was a good idea. I would recommend that you continue doing that and leave that on her. Basically, what we do with the dogs, on any type of training aid, whether it's a yoke or a dangle stick, a drag, whatever we're doing, I like to leave them on for a month. Then take it off for several days and just kind of see how the behavior goes. If the behavior continues, it goes back on for a month. Then, at the end of the second month, again, we take it off. We observe the dogs, reevaluate the situation. Do we need to try something different? Do we need to go from a dangle stick to a drag? Or, do we need to move to an e-collar or something like that? But if you think the dangle stick is working, put it on for a third month. Knock on wood, so far we haven't had to do any of those type of things, for more than 3 months on any of the dogs, that I've worked with. Okay. So, that would be one of my recommendations. Keep that dangle stick on her, basically. It also sounds like, since she's leaving where she's supposed to be, that she doesn't have any respect for fences. So I would encourage you to put in some hot wire, or if you want to get into like an invisible fence collar of some sort, either the one from Spot On. Theirs does have a tracking ability to it, which is nice. And you have to contact the company, but Spot On's collar also has an e-collar function to it. They do have to specifically get a request from you and to turn that feature on. But that is a possibility with Spot On Fence's collar. I'd also recommend the Invisible Fence brand collar. We've been testing out their newest versions that they have out, and we've been getting 3.5 days, sometimes even 4 days, out of that collar. So that's another good possible option for you. Another thing is try to give her something, like some cow leg bones, rope chew toys, something like that, she can expend some of her energy with. It's fine if she plays around with these things and throws them up in the air and that kind of thing. You want her doing that kind of stuff to burn off energy instead of chewing or chasing on your livestock. So, those are most of the things. Again, I don't quite know how big your operation is. If, you have a bunch of mature rams that are aggressive, and I'm not so much they're going to chase you out of the pasture or something like that, but if you have a herding dog, for instance, and, sometimes they'll challenge that herding dog, those are the kind of rams that you need for this situation. So if you've got quite a few rams, and I say quite a few, if you've got 5 or 6, put this dog in a pen with those rams, a pen that she can't escape from. Okay, I think we got speaker again. Sorry about that. Place this dog in a pen with, those rams where she can't escape from it, and leave her in there for 2 or 3 weeks. Generally, those rams are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior from the dog, and they will, teach her to be submissive and to not be chewing and chasing and things like that. If you don't have enough, but maybe you've got a neighbor who has a bunch of rams or even a bunch of billies, see if you can put the dog with them at his place, or, borrow some of his animals and just tell him, hey, I'll pay the feed bill for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And because you need, those animals to teach your guard dog to be submissive. So those are my, kind of recommendations to you, Doug. Hopefully that helps you out. If you're having any more questions, feel free to reach out. So those are all the questions that we have today. I think we're maybe right at the 30-minute mark here, even though we've had some technical difficulties. So I appreciate the folks that logged on and helped out again with the sound issue. I'm not sure what the deal is with this thing. I feel like I get it fixed each time, and then, we do a Facebook Live, and then the darn sound is not working again. So, Manuel, I appreciate you, letting me know that we didn't have sound a couple times here, and I'm glad that it's been working for everybody. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, because since I don't see any questions or anything posted in the comments today, Again, I do want to thank our sponsor, Spot On Fence. If you're looking for an invisible fence collar, I would definitely give them a call and check out their website online. Sheep and Goat Predator Board for providing funding. Our next Q&A is going to be Wednesday, December the 4th at 2 p.m. We'll give it a try, and maybe we'll have the sound problem fixed by that point. Also do want to remind everybody, November 20th, which is a Wednesday this time, we will have our next webinar in the Livestock Guardian Dog series on using livestock guardian dogs on hunting leases. Mark Taylor is going to talk about that. He runs a guide service and manages the hunting lease at our Sonora research station. He's going to talk to you all about some really good ideas that he's come up with on how to deal with guard dogs when you've got hunters on the property. So you can register for that on our Facebook page, or go to our AgriLife website and go into the events, and you can get registered for that webinar. So thanks for all the comments, everybody, today. Appreciate those of you that logged on and listened, and hopefully the answers helped you out some. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me here at the AgriLife Center. Thank you very much for watching, everybody.